Joining me today is a very special guest, Jamal Hill. Jamal is a 2020 Paralympic Bronze Medalist in swimming. He's an author of 3 books, Successful Business Person, Humanitarian, and founder of the Swim Uphill Foundation. And I'm so excited to have him here today to talk about his stellar career, his passion for swimming, and how it all began, his coaching, his fitness regime, and his latest project. Welcome to the show, Jamal.
Thank you for having me, Christine. Happy to be here today. Happy New Year. What's going on? Let's get into it.
You know what? I am so excited to have you on the show, as I said. But I want to start. When did your passion for swimming begin?
My passion for swimming has been a lifelong passion, quite frankly. First time I don't remember obviously, but the first time I have pictures of being in the water, 10 months old, mommy and me swim classes with my mom at the local YMCA. So that literally is a lifetime at this point for me.
Yes. Can you remember the first time that you went into the water and said, "Wow, this is for me. I want to swim." But were you ever scared of swimming? Because I know I am, or was.
Yeah. And it's actually really funny. So, like most things in life, time only moves forward, but our experiences and our lessons are almost never linear, right? So when you ask me, oh, when was it that you figured out, oh, this is the place I really want to do this? That actually didn't come about until I was in my early 20s, right? You would think it would have happened early on, but that didn't come to me till my early 20s. The point of me being scared of the water, I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. I was already an avid swimmer. I was on the swim team. I'm competitive. I'm all these things. And I watched a movie called Deep Blue Sea. It's got Samuel L. Jackson, LL Cool J, and they're in the middle of the ocean on this rig, and they're pretty much, genetically modifying sharks, great white sharks. And so these are super smart sharks. A crazy storm happens. The sharks get loose. The station is blowing up, and everybody's just getting eaten one by these sharks. And so I watch this movie and I come back to the pool, and all of a sudden now I'm afraid of the deep end of the pool. Somehow, right? Even though I knew better, right? I literally knew there could be no sharks here. I'm like, dang, what if it comes out of nowhere?
Yeah.
So that was the time where I actually I was actually afraid, So I think like most people have had experiences. I've had to overcome some type of fear of water, whether we think it's rational or irrational.
Hmm. Well, for coaching too, like you coach, people how learn how to swim, but you also have this swim uphill foundation,
Absolutely.
and the objective is to teach everyone how to swim at about 1 million a year. Like, why do you think a lot of people, generally speaking, are afraid of the water?
Yeah. Actually, most people who don't know how to swim, you can probably bet are afraid of the water. They have some type of trauma, and whether that manifests as a conscious or subconscious fear, it exists, right? It's living there. So that that's inspiring to me. It's inspiring to me. It's almost like I was with a friend of mine earlier, really really wise guy, a counselor of mine, and he said something that Nikola Tesla said, and it's that you can't give unlimited knowledge to a limited mind. Um,
Mm.
and so it's like ultimately water is both a giver of life, and it's the biggest giver of life and the biggest taker of death, right? It has duality to it. Literally, that is what it is. The greatest giver of life, the greatest taker of life. For a lot of age demographics, a lot of people, a lot of right? So many specifics when we talk about people and diversity, but just thinking through that, I'm like, wow, this is something that is obviously essential to us all. We all have an existing relationship with it. No one living does not have a relationship with some form of water, right? but it's like there's still these limits on our minds and our experiences. And a lot of times our spirits, our hearts, and that makes something that is actually a gift, right? Something that, quite frankly, can be enjoyed. You know, a placid body of water, all you need is proper education. You know, we're not talking about hurricanes. We're not talking about a tsunami or anything like that. We're talking about, for the most part, fairly still, fairly calm water, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So that's just a matter of helping people expand what they thought their limits were. And I think that's one reason why I really love this work. And I think that's like the biggest thing people get out of is like, wow, just, you know, a few hours ago, a few minutes ago, a few days ago, I thought that I could not do this. Mm-hmm. And now I can do it. That's what life is about. So yeah, that's just a little bit behind like the passion for me.
Yes, and so a lot of people drown. Like, I mean, you'd be surprised, right? There's stats out there. I don't know how many, but quite a people drown, and that could be well prevented if you know how to swim. And I think it is imperative. I think if learning how to swim and how to do it properly. In other words.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm glad you said that. You know, it's big numbers. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that are reported every year. In reality, just based off of what we know about the efficacy of data collection, it's probably more like in the millions of people that are drowning every year when you really take into first, second, and third world global societies. So it's like I said, it's the great giver of life and the great taker of life. With that said, though, yeah, again, we're not talking about rocket science here, right? That's like thing people around me, they always hear me say, there's only one thing in this world that's like rocket science. I was a physics major, coming from a family of deep scientists. The only thing that's like rocket science is rocket science. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Jamal, you are an inspiration, a testimonial to many people who are going to be watching and listening to the show on the podcast, because it's going to go on a podcast as well.
Right.
Despite having a disability, which I think is an ability, I want you to talk to the viewers and the listener about how you became an Olympian, and the work that you do, your mental strength and the positiveness, because which I can feel it oozing across this virtual screen that we're doing this virtual interview. So tell us, how did you become so like a champion, an inspiration to many?
Yeah, that's a blessing. I will 100% answer that question. I like to add in addition to it that I'm honored to share with you how I think I've come to be the person that I am today. And I always just like to say that my story is my story for reference, and I pull from the strength and the stories of others. And I think that's actually probably the largest factor that's played into who I am today. When I think about conscious choices over years, is, experiencing what I consider to be greatness, experiencing people wanting to be better, experiencing people overcoming challenges, experiencing people being defeated by challenges, throughout my life, from experiences learned on my own, taught to me by my parents, experiences that I sought, right? We all had role models growing up. We all had somebody that we thought was cool, that you had a poster of, that nowadays you want to watch all their YouTube videos, you want to follow. So that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing, I think, quite frankly, truly, right? We are these, really just kind of these frequency beings, right? Like literally we are energy, we are these frequencies. And it's like anything, you're gonna get out what you put into it, right? And for me, it's like I try not to get caught up too much into the game, right? That they try to get us caught up into, the game that exists for the most part, that quite frankly, keeps a lot of us prisoner, right? In a lot of ways, I'm still a prisoner. And that game is, the game of like competition of life and death, right? you know, having to do things that aren't a part of your value system in order to feed your family, in order to feed yourself, in order to have a life, things that we have to do to impress society, you know, all these things. It's like, it's so important for you to choose actively to fill yourselves with messages, with people, with inspirations, with memories of your own self, right? Because that's probably the second thing, is for all these great people, from my parents to role models to friends to mentors to homeless people on the street that give me wisdom, you know, that give me insight, that share with me my experience. It's like, I also now have to take that into myself, right? And kind of make it me, right? I have to act on these things. So I think those are probably the two biggest things. And I know for a fact those are two things that are available to everyone, you know, are absolutely available to everyone, you know, whether maybe you're an orphan, you don't have parents. That's a great challenge to overcome. But there's still experiences, there's still life lessons that can be taught and learned and gained. You know, maybe you lost a child. Maybe you lost a child to drowning. Sadly, there are a lot of people in this world who have lost their children to drowning. So there's a community out there for each of us that can continue to help us not only grow and become great, but to heal, right? To learn to love again, to learn to trust again, to gain an interest into doing something new. So that's the biggest thing is you know, just kind of making your mix of, you know, this is what I want my life to be like. These are the things I want to learn. This is what I enjoy. And then you find the community within that. And I mean, beyond that, man, you know, we're talking about side dishes. That's gonna keep you fed.
Oh, that's wonderful. And yet having the vision and just the positiveness of life, right?
Exactly.
Yes, and swimming is a good cross trainer too, like for runners, and it's I think it's I mean, I swim, but I don't swim like you. But I mean, like it is the best overall fitness, right? And here you are talking about it. So it's just for those out there listening and watching, hey, why not take swimming up as a good cross trainer too, like for runners, as I said, or for soccer players. Um, yeah.
100%. 100%. I couldn't agree with that more. You know, I think always cross training is a great thing. Water obviously is a different environment, literally, than air, right? Different molecular structure, different pressure on the body. So there's a lot of recovery benefits to having in water workouts, a lot of cardio benefits, muscular benefits to having in water recovery and workouts. You know, so it definitely is. It's definitely impressive. You know, I used to sit around and be like, this is the most difficult sport in the world. It may be, I don't know that. Maybe, you know, maybe I need to work on my marketing a bit here. But it's, you know, I think it's the most essential sport in the world. You know, if we were to call it anything, right? If we were to really talk about success and like just being alive, being able to navigate the world in terms of experiences, I think it's the most essential sport, right, or skill that is really a mainstream sport in the world. But yeah, like for anybody, triathlon, you know, again, weekend warrior, somebody who didn't know how to swim, prolonging your career. You know, it's actually interesting, me living with disability, right? Or, you know, living with, you know, that's one thing I'll tell you. It's so interesting. It's beautiful that the world is always changing and we're always getting these new vocabularies, but it can be like a challenge to keep up. And I'm not always sure that I like the new word more than I like the old word. You know, like little side note.
So I don't know how you do it. You're successful in business, but you also have a children's book. And I want to talk about that, but also other projects that you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you started off this interview with, right, our foundation, we're on a mission to teach everyone how to swim, teach the world how to swim. We've taken a bite-sized goal, and ultimately, right, we're just working to teach 1 million people a year right now, which is amazing. We're really doing stupendous on it. We're actually going to be teaching over 1 million people a year how to swim by 2028. So that's only 6 years away. That just goes to show you how amazing things are really moving. One benefit of that is this spring in Southern California, pretty much across 5 counties, I and my team are going to be going on a tour to 100 schools. We're going to be going to 100 schools in 10 weeks. We're going to be sharing with them messages about swim education through this Sammy Swims book. This is a lovely reading material for students aged 2nd to 4th grade. It tells the story of a child who is nervous about swimming, embarrassed even, and then they have an opportunity to meet me. They learn how to swim. They end up going to a pool party with all their friends, having such an amazing time and challenging their family to learn how to swim too, so they can have fun together. So students at these schools will be getting copies of this book absolutely free. That's awesome. You know, that's just like a part of our work. In addition to that, we'll be talking about not only swim education, we'll be talking about disability awareness. And we'll be talking about peace as a part of a global peace awareness initiative in collaboration with the United Nations. So it's a really, really amazing tour that's really kind of been brought on by Sammy. Without Sammy, we would not have this tour happening. So I'm really excited to meet these students throughout the first quarter and put a lot of good books in these kids' hands and ultimately teach a lot of them how to swim. You know, that summer is going to come up real quick. So that is what is going on with our children's book at the Swim Uphill Foundation. Follow at swimuphill.org. Look us up, swimuphill.org, in any web domain. Send us an email. You can find out more about Sammy, especially into the new year, near the end of January. God bless you again, Christine. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
And likewise, and thank you very much. And I'd like you to come back on the show.
Send an invite. I will make it. And who knows, maybe if we get enough views and comments saying we should do it, we'll do the next one in person.
Yes, for sure. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christine.